Hey everyone, welcome once again. Talk Fort Dodge.
Hi, and I'm Jeremiah Condon, and this is,
I'm Todd McCubbin.
and we're here to talk about the
So
severe weather in our Fort Dodge area
it was crazy last night. The wind howled through.
and the
Uh,
buildup for it
oh my, all day,
all day.
everything, all day long. The weather was on before it even made it to Iowa. It was severe weather. Channel 13 was just straight through. It was.
It's going to be bad. It's going to be bad.
It's
Everybody
going
be
to be
home
bad.
by 4.
And I read something this morning that kind of it caught me off guard, and it was Chad Addig, and we've had Chad on here before. He goes, for all of you talking on Facebook that they're disappointed that there wasn't more damage done in Fort Dodge, that was wrong. And I agree with him 100%. You know, severe weather, it's a hobby. It's something you go out, you watch, you're like, okay, this is exciting. There's some adrenaline. But when it isn't as bad as what you thought, don't complain about that.
No,
That's a good thing.
no, it was whistling and howling. I don't know what you did last night, but last night we were sitting upstairs. We just got done eating, and the alarms went off, the whistles.
Yeah.
And we immediately said, "All right, downstairs, everybody downstairs."
We're going to the basement.
Two of my 4 children were just going crazy, crying.
Oh yeah.
And then we have Una the elf.
Yeah.
Elf on the shelf, and she happened to be on the table. Well, our table is surrounded by windows, so we're halfway down the stairs, and Isabel yelled at me, and she goes, "Una's on the table. She's gonna die. She's right next to the window." So I had to go and pick up the whole thing she was sitting on, and she had to go downstairs with us.
Okay. Well, you got Una. Una was safe. Una was safe. I kept getting pictures from the kids in the basement, so I got a picture of Jordan and Esther and Hank in the basement, all snuggled in, reading a book, and it was kind of fun to see all that stuff. And, Katie, my oldest daughter, lives in Harcourt, and she said the tornado was only about a half mile from their house, and it was, they went out last night. They didn't have power most of the night, so
Wow.
they went out looking around and said you could hardly drive down some of the gravel roads. It was pretty rough. So it wasn't far away that we had some pretty severe weather.
I saw Calhoun County had like 3,000 people out.
Yep.
Which 3,000 isn't a huge number, but Calhoun County.
That's not a big county. Yeah, but that's a big area.
Yeah, and then what was it last week? We lost power in my neighborhood for about an hour and a half, 2 hours. That was just really cold, ice, and I still don't know exactly what happened, but the kids again were scared, and we had these cool candles that I bought Jenny last year that you can turn on with a remote control.
Yep.
We just have like 9 of them, and we brought them out in the living room, and we just looked at each other, and it's like, what should we do?
How do we do this when there's no power? And yeah, we have to talk.
Yeah, and
That's
so
weird.
we looked at each other, and then my dad had power, and he goes, "Well, you guys should come over." Well, I have that steep driveway that we've gotten stuck on before, and it's icy and wet.
A shout out to Stumpy for pulling you out last time.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Stumpy. We should have him on sometime.
We should have him on again.
I didn't want to go out with no electricity. Garage doors don't open, so you have to do it manually. But anyway, we sat there and we decided to do the rosary, and we did the rosary, and 3 of the 4 kids fell asleep, and it was like 8 o'clock, and it's like, this is great.
Yeah.
And then the lights turned on. It's like, no, we want the lights to stay off, so we just go to bed.
I should have switched the breaker off in the basement quick so the lights couldn't come back on. Now, we were out of town, so we heard about it the next day, and one of the things, I don't want to say I'm a doomsday prepper, but we put a generator on the house a couple of years ago, which we can have an old episode about putting a generator on the house. And so our house with the Christmas lights on was in the middle of this darkness, looking like this glowing beacon of, hey, look at me. I almost unplugged all the Christmas lights just so nobody knew we had power. But the neighbors said they heard the generator running and saw the lights from our house lighting up the whole block.
So that is something that I thought about, like, what if we had a generator? But now you have one. How many times is it kicked on? Because we don't lose power.
I looked the other day. We've had it 3 years, and I think it's ran like 30 hours.
Oh, wow.
So it's a little
more than I thought.
It was just like a stupid time in the middle of the day. It'll kick on for 2 hours because some guy hit a telephone pole and knocked power out to the house for like 2 hours. And then there were a couple of times that my wife was upstairs vacuuming, and I go, "How long's the generator been on?" And she didn't even know the power was out. It was during the day, so there's no lights on.
And she's pulling like, extra power.
She's vacuuming, and she's like, "What? We lost power." I'm like, I thought somebody was mowing next door. Some of those summer storms are funny.
Yeah, so in Fort Dodge, if you're watching us from afar, our big thing is tornadoes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's one thing. And Fort Dodge has never been hit since like the 70s.
Yep, late 70s.
Late 70s it got hit. But we've had towns around us get hit very, very hard.
Manson got it about the same time. We got it. I went through the whole Midwest.
And you
Parkersburg had that big tornado a few years ago.
Took a lot in Parkersburg.
Yeah, it did.
And then last year, we had probably the worst hail that I've seen in my life.
Mm-hmm.
That was crazy driving around after that hail.
All seeing everything down.
Yeah. Saw cars under trees in the tree. I don't know. Oh, then what, 3 years ago? We had that wind that...
Oh, the derecho straight line wind?
No, that was last year.
Okay.
The derecho. But then we had 90-mile-per-hour winds because... I almost said Shiny Top. Shiny Top's always on my mind.
Mine too.
Soldier Creek, they said the winery things, 90-mile-per-hour winds to pick them up and move them, and they got picked up and moved. But that entire Knollcrest area, do you remember that? All the trees down, you couldn't even drive on the roads back in Knollcrest.
We were at the movie theater that night. We had to drive around trees and through yards to get home.
I was doing an open house the next morning, and I couldn't get to the house.
Oh no! Nope, I remember that now. Yeah, we were with all the kids at the movies, and on the way home, I'm like, "Oh, I guess we're gonna drive through somebody." We drove through a couple of yards. No, I don't remember whose they were. We're like, we got to get around these trees, and I had a Jeep, but I mean, nothing that like I do now, where we'll go over the tree.
And I think I remember like the city saying we'll do whatever we need to help, but I mean, there's so many trees down. There's nothing. I loved driving around the next day and seeing like how many neighbors and how many people were just grabbing their chainsaws and starting to cut them. And
we had a generator in our front yard for like 3 days, trying to keep the refrigerator cold, and no air conditioning, so it was hotter than heck. And I had a CPAP machine at the time. I don't have it anymore. And doing 3 days without a CPAP machine, that was tough. When you need one of those, you need one of those. But I guess to wrap up and talk about this, we'll kind of keep it short and sweet, is have an emergency plan.
Yes.
Know what you're going to do in an emergency. Know where you're going to go. Let the kids know what you're going to do. Afterwards, make sure you're checking in with everybody. I talked to or text all the kids after it was done. We had the messages going back and forth to make sure everybody was safe, everybody was good.
Yeah. My dad and I live on different sides of town, kind of. So he called me, and it's like, okay, if you hear any cracking or you hear anything, I want to know. You call me.
Yep.
And but it's kind of, we laugh, but then it's like, you know what? That's really good, because our plan is we do have under the staircase concrete walls. Concrete.
Yeah. A little
so
there.
if we thought the house was going to start to go, we're right there.
Right,
we're sitting there watching the news on the couch, but we can move right there. And but to have that, at least one person know exactly where you are, because if the house does come down, at least Grandpa knows where we're at, and he'll get emergency services to us, and vice versa. He was down in his basement next to his pool table. He said if the house comes down, he's getting under that pool table.
Yeah, those don't go anywhere. They're heavy. Awesome. Well, I hope everybody's safe. And if you want to put some pictures of the storm damage in the comments, we'd like to see if there's anything that happened to your house, and see stuff around town. And we appreciate everything, and everybody stay safe, and we'll see you next week.
Yay.
Same time, same